The Divine Bitch Podcast. Wake up, be aware, and live your life fully. Welcome to a new episode of the Divine Bitch Podcast. Join us when we journey into awareness, explore what it truly means to wake up, expand your consciousness, and live your life with presence.
Self-image is a costume, not the core. Self-image and the inner critic. Anja, here we are again for a new episode.
Hello.
Podcasts. And today we'll be talking about the self-image and the inner critic.
Interesting.
Yes, I find it very interesting myself too. And it feels like episodes via episodes we're not building up, but we're going into the depth, and that was the intention with the podcast and with all the topics that we were going to talk about. So let's dive deep again.
Okay.
What is for you self-image?
Self-image is basically the image you create about yourself to satisfy the outside world.
And you use the word creation.
Yes.
So, as I stated with the first sentence, self-image is a costume. It's a creation, and
yes,
it's probably a result of conditioning, like we've been talking in the previous podcast too. What could be the function of a creation of a self-image?
it has a protective function. Our authentic self has dealt with interactions that were pleasant, has dealt with interactions that were less pleasant, and our ego has picked up on that, and the ego has protected us. Yeah, the ego is the part of us that says, I'll help you out. I'll make sure you no longer get hurt. So let's create this perfect image of you. Let's portray something you are not, but something that others will like and that will lead to a lot less rejection, for instance. So it has a good function. It's the same as if we dress up and we go on stage and we act on a play. You become somebody else for that moment of time. And that's where the difficulty of the self-image is about. Because what happens after that moment of time when you are on your own and that self-image and that mask is still on and you lose yourself. And that's what happens a lot with a very well-developed self-image.
So the self-image is like a role that you're playing. And it's completely fine to play different roles. But very often, many people, like you say, have created a very detailed self-image, a very detailed costume about themselves. And my own experience is, if you create such an image, you have to do many things to keep that, to protect that image, to keep that belief about yourself, and especially that others have about you, to make sure you conform with that. You keep that up.
For sure. It gives a lot of stress because obviously it is different from who you truly are, because it's not something that comes natural. So you have to maintain it. And maintaining it becomes difficult and gradually more difficult over time. Because there's so many elements that you build upon that image that are far away from what is really happening on the inside, that you sometimes forget. And that you sometimes have to really think well of not falling into the trap of exposing yourself. It has a protective function, but nothing more than that, because it also limits your true connections. And people with a very strong developed self-image will connect with other people with strongly developed images. So then you have an endless cycle of having to build upon those things that make other people like you. And the fear of not being liked for who you really are becomes bigger as well.
And also building on fundaments that are not stable, that are not ecological in a way that they're easily to maintain, because it's something that you created or something you believe to, instead of who you are.
Yeah, exactly. I had a self-image of being fearless when I was younger. And at some point, my friends were starting to tell me, you are always so successful. Whatever you do, it's a success. But the things that I was doing were really far away of who I really was. So every time a friend would tell me, you are so successful, it's so great, I was dying on the inside. Because one, I was not really enjoying what I was doing. And so if they liked me for that, then it meant more pressure to keep that up. I had that also when I was studying, I was getting really good grades. And every time I got a good grade, I felt like I was expected to do even better. But on the inside, I felt like an idiot. I felt like somebody who was not very intelligent. And because I could not express that, every time I felt people would expect more. And, you cannot sustain that. You cannot continue doing that for a long time without getting some form of penalty from it. Your body will suffer from it, or your emotions will suffer from it. That said, I think there's quite a lot of people that can sustain it. Yeah. But they just lose the authentic self in that matter.
And for me also, the self-image is actually built on so many things outside of yourself. It's very often not based on traits of who you are, but maybe a diploma you acquired, maybe a role you have as a job, as a function, and who you are as a partner, where you live, and then
cars.
A lot of materialized things that, like I said, create a fundament, but what if they take them away? What if you lose them?
That's where the stress comes about, because it's not something that comes from the inside. You're completely dependent on a lot of things that are happening on the outside. So instead of becoming free, you become captivated. I mean, you become captured. You're actually putting yourself into a situation where things can fall apart any minute. So it's a really good mechanism to protect yourself, but a really disastrous mechanism in terms of dependency. Yeah.
And you do not become trapped. You trap yourself.
You trap yourself.
I have this visual of a bird inside of a cage with only 2 bars. And his head is in between the 2 bars, and he's holding the bars. And
exactly.
Because your mind you are able to trap yourself just with your mind, with your beliefs. And I think we've talked about it in the second episode about trauma. It's also conditioning. Because you acquire beliefs from the outside.
Exactly.
And you make them your own.
Yeah, and your self-image becomes your identity. So here we are with identification again. I think what plant medicine does for me is de-identification. Every time I lose a part of my self-image. And it's confrontational because, am I the one that has a self? Of course, we all have one. The degree with which can be different. But just understanding that small parts have been acquired from the outside and being able to let them go and to accept that you can let go of that control, that's very freeing. That's the opposite. Instead of capturing yourself, you're freeing yourself again. Yeah. But it takes guts. And sometimes it takes honesty also to explain to people that you have been interacting with that part of you was not true. That part of you has changed, and sometimes you also let go of people that you thought you were close with because of it. Yeah.
And that's how your life changed. Because when you wake up, when you want to become more aware, when you want to become more of yourself in the things that you started to acquire outside of yourself, your life changes.
Exactly.
And many clients of you and of me, they look for that change. I was looking for the change myself, and it's not again about doing different things in your life. It's about being different.
Yeah, exactly.
And being that person who you truly are, or you feel you are, instead of the idea you want to keep on expressing to the world.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, for instance, the embodiment of the bitch is a loss of my self-image. Because my self-image said I had to be nice, smile. I had to look like this little blonde angel who is only good at taking care of people. But acknowledging that bitchy side of me is, freeing myself up. Yeah.
Amazing. Isn't it?
Yeah. It is. I mean, it does feel very freeing to know that you can also piss off people. Yeah, and that when it feels right for you, that it's okay to express it, to not be as friendly as you were taught to be.
And a sentence that helped me a lot in the last period was also that I remind myself that what I do does not define who I am.
Just who you are defines who you are.
Yeah, of course. So what I do has actually nothing to do with who I am.
Yeah,
nothing at all. But if you look on it on the opposite of the same sentence, if you believe that what you do defines who you are,
then that becomes a reality.
Yeah, of course. And again, then you have to do so many things to actually hide and cover being the bitch, being the bastard, being whatever. You learned from yourself that survival was more important than to hide.
Yeah.
And then from there on, like you said, also with the with putting on the light in the room where you enter, you cannot forget what you saw.
Yeah, exactly.
Or what you felt.
Yeah. An exercise I sometimes do with clients is I ask them to dress up in two different states. So one is the person that their father really liked, and one is the person that they would like to be. So to de-identify what is not right and to identify what feels right. And then you often see really, really totally different images.
What is the exercise for your clients or your patients? For the listeners, I really want to invite them to do this exercise because it feels really empowering.
It's a fascinating one, huh? And it really, really is very impactful. You gain a lot from doing this. So the exercise is dress yourself up for a week in two different people. So the one is the ideal son of your ideal daughter or son that your father wanted. What image is that? And then the ideal person you want to be. And I'll give you an example. So there was one client who said, I have two images. The one is this blonde Barbie girl with pink clothes on, lipstick on, handbag, designer bag, and so on. Daddy loved her, she was doing all the right things for daddy. But I have this one other symbol, which is the goddess of Artemis, which is a very independent woman that hunts. She lives a very simple life. She has a lot of male energy and so on. And by embodying, and for a week, she dressed up as both. And she said, I was in a mere depression after the first week. Because that daddy's girl that I've always tried to be was really killing me. And she had a lot of physical pains after that week. And when she went through the physical pains, she really turned into a state of depression. And she said, I didn't realize it was so strong. But I've been wanting to be someone to please my father. And everything that person does is so far from who I am, because I am Artemis. Yeah, which is the complete opposite. No makeup, not wild, wild, free, and no materialistic things connected to nature, but very independent, So that's very freeing. So even doing that for a day or two will make a big difference. So find an archetype that you resent, find an archetype that you look up to, is basically those two, and then feel what it does. And you'll probably end up integrating some of the things that archetype you love does. Even if it's in clothes, you will feel the difference.
Even just with clothes.
Yes, exactly.
Because we've been talking about the self-image. The clothes are a very big part of self-image.
Yeah, exactly.
A question that I ask myself often when I'm standing in front of the closet choosing clothes. why do I pick these clothes?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
depending on the people you're going to meet, the places where you're going to, whatever plans you have that day, you pick clothes in function of that. And actually, it should be the other way around. How do I want to feel? Not how do I want people to see me, or how do I want to feel?
Yeah, what do I feel like wearing as well?
What do I feel like
Am
wearing?
I happy? Will I have bright colors? Am I a bit darker? And, that's a good one. Yeah, for sure.
And actually, like the things we've been talking about is the signals, and it's all about the small things in life. It's not about the big differences, the big changes, you changing your complete closet. That's not what you need to change an inch inside of yourself, or to come a little bit closer to yourself. It's just becoming aware what you do, why you do it, with what intention you're doing it, or for who.
Yeah, exactly.
For who.
Yeah.
The inner critic is the echo of old voices.
Yes, the inner critic, boy. I mean, we're really diving deep now. The inner critic is that sub-identity that has taken over the voice of often parents, to make sure that you don't always feel the rejection of those parents or caretakers. It can be parents, it can be caretakers. Because what happens is, if as a child you are constantly being told no, 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 for good reasons. I mean, it's not necessarily bad people doing that, but they have their own situations, and no, you should not be proud of yourself. You should not brag about yourself. You should, there's a lot of no's that children receive. Then your ego develops a sub-identity that will repeat those voices in your own head. Why? Because the rejection from the outside world is more painful than your own rejection. And if you have that inner voice that criticizes you, you have less risk of being criticized by others, because you make yourself smaller. You become less visible. And if you are less visible, the outside world will not notice you that much. So the risk of actually being attacked or being criticized will be less. Yeah. However, that inner critic, when it grows, and it grows fast, it can really screw you up big time. And that's what I realized. I mean, the reason why I ended up in a wheelchair in the first place was because my inner critic actually limited every single move I did. Yeah, you are ugly, you are stupid, you are bad, you're a bad, bad person. And if you hear that voice 24/7, and it happens with a lot of people, then you don't do anything anymore. Yeah, you get burned out, you become depressed, you get paralyzed. I mean, it's a consequence of a very strong inner critic often that does that. Yeah.
You said that rejection of the outer world is more painful than your own rejection.
Yeah, because...
But my experience is the opposite.
Okay. Interesting.
Because if you're honest about the pain that your inner critic really creates, or how you create it yourself, of course, but what you feel with it, and especially the duration and the frequency, it's killing yourself from the inside out.
Oh, sure. That's what it does. I mean, that's what it does over time. Yeah. So the initial mechanism arises to protect you. But when that mechanism is repeated and you're not aware of it, it comes to destroy you completely. And that's because there is no love funding that sub-identity, because it comes from the ego. It's pure fear. And a way to deal with that is not to suppress that inner critic, not saying, okay, shut up, I'm good. No, because it will shout even louder. It will really become stronger because it comes from fear. The way to deal with that is to develop that constructive voice in yourself that says, I'm okay, I'm doing it. Maybe I made a mistake, but I'm fine. Yeah. So you actually throw in another voice gradually that you develop. So the inner critic starts to dance with the voice of the soul. So the inner critic starts to dance with that voice that does love you a lot. And then it goes away gradually. The thing is with inner critics, they often arise to protect you. So what they will do is, it's a moment in time where you are rejected or the pain arises again, they will be there again. So it's not a mechanism that completely disappears. It just learns to lower its voice and to dance with that constructive voice that you have, that comes from a good place, from a loving place in yourself.
Mm-hmm. And especially that real inner voice that comes from love, from your core.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that wants attention too, wants to be heard, wants to express itself too. And my own experience is that I completely lost contact with that part, with that voice.
Yeah.
So the inner critic was the only thing that was there, and it became my normal.
It's your go-to place, huh?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And in which way would you suggest the listeners to start feeding is not the right word, but allowing that loving voice inside of themselves to speak up, to give it more attention, to allow it?
Yeah. I always say, to spread some awareness on the darkness. So basically, give that inner voice a name. What's it called? Give it an image. Is it, a beautiful flower, or is it a very tall, thin police guy? Something like that. So first, materialize the darkness. Because if you can materialize it, you can distinguish it from the light. Yeah. So shed awareness also on your darkness. Look at it. It's like looking at your own face, for instance, because the voice, the constructive voice, will develop because you give it space. It's just looking at it to make sure that you don't forget that that's not your true self. And I had specific names for my voices. And then you can start practicing positive affirmations. Now, there's a lot of people who resist to expressing positive affirmations. I understand why. Because if you stand in front of a mirror and you say, I am beautiful, but you don't feel it, you don't believe it. But I always say in that sense, fake it till you make it. Try it out, try it again, repeat it, and see what happens then. But by really being aware of your dark voice, because that's really important, you can start dancing with it much more. And also, thank your inner critic, because he was there at the beginning to help you out. And yes, he took it too far, and it became the only voice, and it was destroying you at some point. But, you don't have to exclude him. You don't have to push him out of your life. Accept that there is another voice. And I also say, okay, thanks, inner critic, but I am taking over. I can manage now. It's fine. So for me, it's a guy. He knows that I'm actually dealing with the situation and that he can rest, because they're often tired as well. These inner voices, they have been speaking, for 24/7. And sometimes I just close my eyes. I connect with that sub-identity and I see him in front of me. It's a guy. It's this very thin guy, a tall guy. And I say, are you tired? And he often says yes. And I often say, okay, just take a breath now. You can pause. I will take it here from now on. And that helps as well to develop that positive side of you, that constructive voice.
Yeah. And in a way, it helped me a lot, like you said, with the resistance that you feel like, okay, you believe that you're ugly and you can repeat as much as you want, that you are beautiful, that you look amazing, that you have beautiful eyes and whatever. For me, it helped a lot, instead of going into that resistance because you do not believe it yourself, that you're actually, inside of yourself, you're laughing. The inner critic is laughing like, what are you trying to convince me of? I don't believe you at all. It helped me a lot to use appreciations on a lot of topics that are without resistance. And for me, really to learn and cultivate the feeling of appreciation of all that is. And from there on, the more and more I was able to feel the appreciation for trees and for grass and for friends and for family and simply just my feet and my hands and my hair. it still helps me a lot to appreciate more and more instead of listening to the inner critic.
Yeah, for sure. It's that same voice that, speaks up every morning and says thank you to who you are. It's a good exercise as well to just do it out loud as well. Just say, I am thankful for this day. I am thankful that I woke up. I am thankful for a good night. It changes your mood already. That's that constructive voice again. So yeah, it's this multiple ways of developing it further, but it's still something that will grow so fast that other voice that disappears slowly. Yeah, for sure.
Who you truly are has never needed approval.
That's a good one. And it's true. I mean, it's what you feel when you've not heard the inner critic for a couple of days. It's we are that big light, that big sun. And I believe that moment of fullness happens during conception. And from then on, Earth has some challenges.
Earth school.
Yeah, Earth school indeed. And it throws some shadows on who we are. But that light in itself doesn't care about being approved. It knows, it feels, it has this deep understanding of who it is, and it doesn't require any, judgment from outside. It doesn't require us to do anything. It is just there. Yeah. So that's why I say awareness is a divine bitch. It's like she is the bitch and she doesn't care because it comes from a good place.
And she or he acknowledges that he or she is the bitch or the bastard.
Exactly.
And
that he or she is.
And that's the last thing that I want to cover in this episode is how we can move more from ignorance to remembrance. Because for me, ignorance is the darkness, is acting as if it's not there, or acting to make sure that we can keep it covered, that we can keep the inner image as we think others want us to hold it on. And remembrance is moving closer to who you are.
And it's soft as well, isn't it? It's like, it's true. You don't have to question it anymore. Yeah, it's a very soft feeling once you get there. Yeah, true.
For me, it's an inner knowing.
A deep inner knowing.
A deep inner knowing, and especially that's a thing that I experience myself a lot, is before I was not aware, I was tensed about any topic that is arising or any layer that is opening up. And very often when I enter that place, that inner knowing, that remembrance, it's like you said, it's the softness and the moment that I feel, because of my awareness, because of how I am observing it, that I feel myself softening in facial expression, in being, literally in being. You just feel, I feel like, okay, this is what remembrance is about.
Yeah, it's a very grounded way of living. To stay in that and not be worried all the time. That's it. Yeah, for sure. It's pure bliss.
The warrior versus, I have no idea.
No idea.
But it's a wordplay, because many people, a friend of mine also, he very often wears his sweatshirt with warrior. And since I don't remember when, for me warrior has actually become warrior. Because it's fighting, it's proving, it's trying to change the outsides. But who are you fighting with?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know what you mean. There is no fighting. I tried fighting society for a long time. I thought, I'm going to fight this. I am way over this. And then I realized I'm not going to be able to fight it. So I better transform it, and I can transform it. If I start with myself, the rest will go automatically, and that's what I see. And it's a much nicer process than going to war on a daily basis, for sure.
Perfect. Any link you want to make with the book now at this time?
I think there's quite a lot about the inner critic in the book, because it's a big part of my life and I shared a lot about it. So I would say, if you have one, try and visualize it, materialize it, so that you know when it's there, and that you can slowly learn him to dance with your constructive voice. Do that. That will help you out a lot already.
And I think the dancing is flow and softness.
Exactly.
Especially not fighting. It's not
fighting it.
It's not giving directions, no expectations. It's being curious, softening, opening.
Don't tell him to shut up, because he won't shut up. Yeah.
Oh, he'll shout louder.
Just say, thank you for the warning. I'm fine, and I will try and do it another way this time. You know, that's basically the dance. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Anja.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you for joining us on the path of awareness. Pay attention, open up, and remind yourself that awareness is not a destination. It's a way of life. See you in the next episode.